original letter for citing. That letter was never given to Maina. It is still in my possession. But from what we gathered, what the Ministry of Interior did was that they just acted on an advance copy that was copied to them by the Federal Civil Service Commission for information purposes only.
To my understanding, there are two issues here. Reinstatement of Maina is different with Maina's reporting to Interior. Reinstatement of Maina could not have been done without the office of the head of service endorsing the senior staff committee meeting outcome. And the reinstatement of Maina could only be done by the office that Constitution gave that power, that is Federal Civil Service Commission. They are mandated to recruit, to employ, promote, and discipline.
Can you hear me?
Well, that is unresolved now. During last week's session with the committee, the lawyer to Mr. Maina said he got paid even while he was out of service, or when he was thought that he was out of service. Today, the Finance Minister, Kemi Adeosun, reacted to that.
Yes. Use two platforms to pay salaries, IPPIS and GIFMIS, the government's integrated financial management information system. And there is no trace of any payment made to Mr. Abdul Rashid Abdullahi Maina. For the avoidance of doubt, the agency which he was suspended from, CIPPO, has moved into PATAD. All of PATAD's staff are now on IPPIs. Their biometric data has been captured. We do not have the biometric data of Mr. Maina, which corroborates the point made by the Accountant General that his salary was stopped in March 2013. That was the last payment we have to Mr. Maina, which was for the month of February, paid in arrears. PATAD themselves have been on IPPI since 2014, so we have no record, we do not have his biometric data, and we are not making any payments to him.
Well done. He's not been paid. The former pensions boss is a fugitive, so questions are being asked about his whereabouts and whether he was on the wanted watch list. Then the heads of security agencies involved said the man in question has more than a green passport.
On December 1st, 2015, we have discovered a paper from EFCC directing us to remove his name in the stop list, which we have stopped, we have removed. But when the case of Maina started, when directive was given by Mr. President that he should be looked for or investigation should be done, we blocked his name in our stop list. We blocked all his passport, that's Nigerian passport, which means he cannot reissue his passport any longer, and he cannot pass through our recognized border. I have to state that we have checked our e-pass. We have not seen movement of Maina through our airports since 2013 when he was refused. So the record available to us, Maina has not been traveling. If he has been traveling, he has not been passing through a port we can see him.
The disappearance and subsequent exit from the country by Maina was made possible and easy for him, as there was no request by any agency of government to the DSS for his apprehension. Consequently, his name was not placed in our service watch list. I would like to state here that the service has nothing to do with the reinstatement into the public service of the Federation of Maina, as well as his subsequent promotion.
Okay, then you want to ask a question. So all of the monies, you remember that Mr. Maina, in an exclusive videotape, told Channels Television that he was visited in Dubai by the Attorney General of the Federation. And he said he was responsible in the recovery of a lot of assets. So where are all these assets? The FCC has a reply to this. Listen.
Maina never handed over any asset. Any asset. All the assets we recover during the process of investigation, common knowledge now. It went through the court, and we have interim and final forfeiture in some cases, just like I stated. We have about 2 of them who are in the original investigation team in this room. So Maina never handed over anything to the EFCC.
It's a packed full program tonight, so let's get perspectives on this one. I have a lawyer and one of our regular analysts on the program, Mr. Daniel Bwala, who joins us now from London. Thank you so much for joining us on this one. So many issues, so many facts coming in, revelations here and there, confusing issues, conflicting statements and submissions. But what do you make of this old saga, Mr. Bwala?
Right. Thank you for having me. Well, this is gradually becoming a locus classicus of scandals in Nigeria. This is quite rocking everywhere. But you see, what transpired today at the House hearing and what transpired last week has not changed the gamut of the story, which is that the office of the Attorney General is culpable, is responsible, and cannot hide from this fact. Number one, none of these other agencies, department, or ministry heads have had the cause to travel to Dubai to meet with the fugitive. Number two, none of them initiated either a meeting, a correspondence, or a letter for the reinstatement of the fugitive, but it started from the office of the Attorney General. So whichever way you turn it, what has happened today to me has clearly exonerated the EFCC, has clearly exonerated the DSS, has clearly exonerated the customs, and the people that are left to answer questions are Ministry of Interior, Office of the Attorney General, and in part, the head of service. But if you look at the entirety of the story, head of service cannot entirely be blamed. It is like something is cooked up and she is to be put in the center. The fact is clear. We may have House hearing, Senate hearing, we keep having committee meetings. One fact is clear, Section 155 of the Constitution establishes the office of the Attorney General. It is not a small office. And so he is not just a minister, but the chief law officer of the Federation. And he initiated that. It is quite shameful, to be honest. And for the president not to have a problem, I think it is high time for the Attorney General to accept the fact that he initiated the reinstatement, right. But maybe he can put up a defense and say they are looking at plea bargain or something like that. All right.
Because of our time, quickly, because we have an issue of a very of human concern, of a grave one at that we need to tackle on the program tonight. But if you are in the position of the president tonight, what would you be doing? And would you say that the president should intervene at this moment when the National Assembly is already in this matter?
To be honest, on the part of the president, at this point, there is nothing he can do in order not to prejudice the outcome of the hearing, either by the House or the Senate. But what the president can do to express his displeasure will be to suspend 2 people in this administration. And I don't need to say it. The facts are clear in the public domain.
Mr. Daniel Bwala, always a pleasure talking to you. Even though for the issue we have tonight, we'll have had you talk more on this. Let's now move to a story of man's inhumanity or inhumane activity to another man. The journey of Africans through the Mediterranean to Europe is a rough and almost a suicide one. The story of capsized boats has made headlines and sparked global outcry many times over. The trend has defied solutions as well. But there is a journey that precedes the one on the sea. It is equally as deadly as traveling on a packed boat through the sea. That is what we are faced with now. The story of slave trade in Libya. Many Nigerians are stranded in the northern African country, and the president said he's bringing them back after a report shows how many Africans are being subjected to inhuman treatment. The unbacked government in Libya is promising to increase the number of flights repatriating stranded migrants, while Libya's ambassador to the United Nations says slave auctions reports will be fully investigated. Let's make a sense of all of this. I have joining me in the studio the Senior Special Assistant on Foreign Affairs and Diaspora to President Muhammadu Buhari, Honorable Abike Dabiri, joins us in the studio right now. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Shehu. Nice to be with you this evening.
How sad can this government describe the situation we have on our hands, where we have our fellow brothers and sisters being sold in a slave trade activity in Libya?
Well, very sad. But before then, I'll correct something you said. You said after global outcry, this administration has been bringing back stranded Nigerians in Libya since January. And I recall that in January, the NEMA, my office, IOM, told the world, told Nigerians that avoid Libya. It's deadly, it's dangerous, don't go there. And then you recall that even on your news, you have cases of Nigerians being brought back from Libya on a regular basis. So Nigeria has been bringing back its citizens from Libya. We didn't wait for the global outcry.
A major issue will be the report over the footage, the surface, the report by, showing that Nigerians were being part of the exchange for money. And that has caused
but we had always said that
has not been...
No, the only thing is that you now had actuality. You saw a video. We had always said it. They are sold, they are killed, they are even drowned deliberately at sea. So that has always been happening. So that clip has helped. So I hope the global outcry will help put a stop to this. But I'll tell you something. In bringing them in, IOM, NEMA, NAPTIP, Refugee Commission, you can only do 3 flights to Libya. And you have to go through Tunisia, Turkey before you get to Libya. Only 3 flights. So what is going to happen now is, number one, you need the African Union to give a landing permit, to ensure that you get a landing permit so that you can have planes go into Libya and bring out its citizens. So that is critical at this point in time. And then you can only reach those that are in Tripoli. You can't go outside Tripoli because the rebels have manned the place. So if you look at areas like Suriname, Benghazi, Sebha, Jafra, you can't even get there.
All right, Honorable, we'll take a breather. But when we come back, she's with us here. It's an issue that a lot of Nigerians are concerned with. And so we'll dig deeper into this matter after now. Join us again, everyone.
The Channels 24 app means you'll always be in touch with the news. Get the latest local and international stories on the go. And there's our social media platforms for news from around the world. Watch the news live and play videos that matter to you. You can also check the eyewitness section to report events around you. Just click on the eyewitness icon and follow the instructions to upload your content. Channels 24 app, the news at your fingertips.
Senate notes with utmost concern and grief that this completely stone-age, inhuman and barbaric act is going on today within the 21st century civilization.
As a country, truly, I think it's a slap on the face of all of us if Nigerians can be treated in this manner. As somebody said, Ivory Coast, that is not as big as us, is taking actions to see how they can bring their own citizens back.
Auctioning of the black Africans in conflict-torn nation sparked outrageous across the world, with thousands of people taking to the street of Paris, France, to protest against the modern-day slavery. And in reaction, the African Union on November 17, 2017, called on Libyan authorities to investigate the matter.
If indeed the numbers have escalated drastically, it just shows that there's something wrong that we are all doing. If there were enough jobs and if the economy was stable enough, we wouldn't have our youngsters deciding to embark upon these journeys knowing fully well that they might lose their lives.
Thank you so much for staying with us, everyone. Admittedly, getting an accurate statistics of illegal migrants, it's very difficult. Many young Nigerians leave the country through the back door to seek greener pastures in Europe. But like they say, the grass is always greener on the other side. From the accounts of some Nigerians who have returned from Libya, there are stories of how they were forced into prostitution, used as mercenaries, deployed as household servants. There is also the story of how they were beaten, starved, and subjected to other forms of torture if they try to resist. Let's continue the conversation now. Perhaps one person that can respond to some of these issues is the woman advising the president on issues of foreign affairs and diaspora, a former lawmaker in the National Assembly, Honorable Abike Dabiri-Erewa. Thank you so much for your thoughts and your time tonight on the program. A lot of people watching right now, their sisters, brothers, part of those who have been sold. It brings the question of the reasons why people will take on those deadly expedition out of the country.
I'll ask you, even you or anybody in your studio, I'm sure you can't just get up and walk from Lagos to Maiduguri or even Ibadan. Just imagine that. And then imagine what they're going through. You're walking for about 3,000 kilometers. That's about flying 3 hours if we're going to Europe. So you can imagine the dangerous journey. But let's look at what is going on. You'll say poverty. Yes, government must do the needful, create an enabling environment, provide jobs and all that, but it goes beyond that. What do you say of the mother who sells her land and pays off $4,000 for her daughter to go to Europe? We should look at the family value and the systems. What do you say of a gentleman, one of those that returned, who sold everything he had in his shop, got about 3-4 million naira, changed to dollars, and paid traffickers? For every person who goes on that journey, a trafficker is being empowered. A trafficker is getting richer. And you know, human trafficking is now more attractive than drug trafficking. It's now easier to get a drug peddler than a human trafficker. So many things to be done. Yes, government has a role to play, and government must do that. President Buhari stressed that in Abidjan just yesterday as to the fact that this administration, though made a bad situation, but we'll do everything possible to bring smiles to the faces of Nigerians. That is on one side. But traffickers must be prosecuted, must be arrested, and they must be known. There's a whistleblower policy by NAPTIP. Report traffickers, they are amongst you. And I'll say something again, Michelle. Slavery begins here. The slavery begins here. When you sell, for every trafficker, you're sold from here for between $2,000, $4,000 to $6,000. So the slavery begins here for anybody. What does a 14-year-old know about who pays for the 14-year-old? Some of those that are back, we have a 14-year-old girl who is 4 months pregnant. Who pays for them? Somebody pays on their behalf. So let's look also at the moral values, the family values.
Okay, let's bring these issues of the issue of the ring of those who are involved in this peddling and these trafficking in persons. What exactly is the policy of government? Because if you notice that this is happening, what are you telling the president? Is he aware of the increase? And you've been in that office managing in the National Assembly. What have you discovered? A lot of people say things are getting so hard and harsh in the economy, and that's why perhaps people are getting out.
No, but let me tell you, you're missing the point. These people that came back didn't go yesterday. Some are there for 6 years. Some are there for 7 years.
But currently, the question is, presently, as we stand right now, what have you discovered? What have you done to ensure that those people that are involved in all of these are curbed?
That's the key word. Curbing the traffickers. Now, NAPTIP, which is the sole body responsible for this, has already nabbed about 30 of them, and they are awaiting prosecution. You know, justice system is a bit slow. 30 are awaiting prosecution. But a lot more needs to be done, and a lot more will be done. In fact, I think a newspaper called me yesterday. They've done their investigative report, and they actually know where some of these traffickers are. So I expect the authorities to act. So there should be a lot of intelligence gathering in this situation, because the key thing is nabbing the traffickers. They live amongst us. We know them. They spend heavily. And like I said, there's a whistleblower policy by NAPTIP for trafficking. Report a trafficker. This is dangerous. It's terrible. It's bad.
What is the policy that the government or the engagement that the government of the Buhari administration is taking, engaging the Libyan government on these very ones?
Unfortunately, there's no government in Libya. That's the sad part of the situation. Libya is in a crisis situation. There are 3 different governments or so in Libya. There's no government in Libya. When Gaddafi was there and we brought back 24 Nigerians that were to be killed, we could speak to him. Then AU intervened. There was somebody to talk to. There's nobody to talk to in Libya.
So we are helpless.
And that's we are not helpless because the African Union now has to step in. I'll tell you something. We want to send planes to Libya. You need a landing permit. You have to get it. So that's why we're glad about the global outcry. It's kept Libya on their toes. And, you know, we want to bring back our citizens. Let us do that. Like I said, to get to some place after Tripoli, you need to go through the rebels.
I'm very sure you've watched the investigative story channels did on from Benin to Italy, and there is a recent happening in Italy where some Nigerians, 2 I understand are now confirmed to be Nigerians out of those people that are there. What is the latest on that? China's television exposed that route they've been taking from the southern part of the country up onto Italy and through the Mediterranean and all of that, through the Sahara. And what have you used in all of this information in making up policies in this kind of situation, especially in the Italy situation?
The Italy situation, for instance, I'll tell you something, talking about the 2 or 3 that died there and the fact that government was criticized, nobody was there. The Italian ambassador actually replied and said, we're sorry. It was a big mix-up, but let's work together to curb trafficking, because it's about both the country of origin, transit and destination. You see, this route you're talking about, it's a cabal. It's not just Nigerians. So it has a ring that is all over the world. So both those are the country of destination, those are the country of origin and transit needs to work together, which is being done now. So the world attention paid to this that hopefully will work out, because it is a ring that has to be destroyed. Not just one country can do it. Several countries are involved. And I'll tell you something. I was at the last summit in Addis Ababa put together by the United Nations. They're working on coming up with something in July, a policy on migration, just like they did with SDGs. But some African countries like Niger, they've signed an MOU with the EU. So when you get traffic now and you get to maybe Libya, you'll never get to Europe. They'll send you to Niger. Then when you get to Niger, start seeking for asylum. I guess nobody will tell you
Is there an issue of our porous border? Because is the government also concerned that its youth, active youth, are also looking for ways to get out of the country?
Absolutely.
Economic situation in the country. Is the Buhari government looking into this?
Look, President Buhari has said this. He said it elaborately in Abidjan, what government will do, and governments. And let me tell you, some of those that have been back have been gainfully employed. Benin has taken a lot of them. 160 of them are now in Benin learning how to farm. Some have gone into catering. Some have been, they've been acquiring skills. And some from the NAPTIP camp have been taken over by NGOs. N-Power program has offered employment to those who are willing. So yes, the Buhari administration will do everything possible to create an enabling environment for jobs to thrive in Nigeria. And you know, in 2 years, the government is putting on a solid foundation for this country. So yes, President Buhari tackled that issue in Abidjan, and nobody's going to sleep over that.
All right. I mean, because our time is up now, the South African situation is a major one also. Just in 30 seconds. There seems to be a lot of issues around Nigerians living outside of the country. South Africa, killings every day.
South Africa, you need to put in perspective. The last killings, 2 people were killed, was a case of armed robbery. If 2 Nigerians were attacked for armed robbery in South Africa, 50 South Africans have been attacked. South Africa says, according to their statistics, about 270 attacks take place every month. So there's a lot of violence in South Africa. So that's for the last one. You have the police killings, you know, extrajudicial killings. And the good news is, for the first time, 2 or 3 policemen are being arraigned. So very soon you'll hear about the arraignment.
Right, so you're promising Nigerians that the Buhari government is going to do more in making Nigerians stay?
Absolutely. President Buhari has stressed that. He will do that, and he's doing that.
Honorable Abike Dabirewa, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your presence. And that's our show for tonight. Many thanks for being part of it, everyone. I'm Sean Wakimale. Bye-bye.
The eyes of it. Some people see it as a right. Some say it's a monumental waste of resources.
The constituency allowance is the backrock of corruption in the house.
In the absence of transparency and accountability, someone needs to beam the light and tell the story. Tracker Plus explores and dissects constituency projects with facts and figures. Only on Channels TV.